Hey everyone, welcome back to Heartland Mamas. I'm Marie Briel.
And I'm Heidi Henry, coming to you from 3 separate studios at the edge of the Great Red Divide. The Great Red Divide is the area that surrounds us, the blue portion of Illinois, all the way to California. And you can catch all of our previous work at heartlandmamas.com, on the Demcast network, and anywhere you get your podcasts. So please join us and follow up on some of our previous work. We're here to bring the message of the Democratic Party, unofficially, and progressivism across the nation. So Marie, today we have a very special guest that we're really excited to have on, a candidate, and I'd like you to go ahead and introduce her.
Today we have Anna Wilhelmi. She is an attorney, DeKalb native. She is running for DeKalb County States Attorney. And I think that she's an amazing woman. She fights for social justice in her personal life, in her professional life. And to have someone like that at this time, when we know we need criminal justice reform at every level.
Yes.
It's pretty amazing. So Anna, thank you so much for coming on and talking to our viewers a little bit more about you and what you can change and what your plans are. Tell us a little about you.
Thank you both. Yeah, thank you both for having me. I really appreciate being able to talk with both of you and your people. So I am Anna Wilhelmi. I'm running for DeKalb County States Attorney, and I am an attorney. I've been practicing since 1996, and so I have a strong background in criminal law. And I started out at the public defender's office and kind of went forward from there, went into private practice. And so my passion is criminal justice. And so there's been a lot of changes that need to be had right now in our criminal justice system. And, it's ongoing. But I'm here to step up to the plate. And so I went to NIU.
Okay,
and
great.
I was there for the last 2 years of undergrad. Yep, I graduated with a degree in sociology, emphasis criminology. And I also went to NIU College of Law and got my Juris Doctor there. So that's a little bit about my background. I live out on a farm in Earlville, close to Pawpaw.
Oh, we know that well. I grew up in Ottawa. That's where I was born and raised. Yep,
well,
born and raised in Ottawa.
I have relatives in Ottawa. I have my cousins.
We have relatives in Earlville. Heidi lives in Marseilles. I have Seneca, the whole area. I know it well.
Wow. Yeah. So I love it. So I was born and raised in Joliet, right? And then I just kept coming
no.
No way.
Yeah, right.
All of us are. Yeah, she lives in Joliet.
I live in Joliet. I knew there was a reason I thought you were super cool, and now I know why.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, my roots are from Joliet. And so, I ended up going out to Earlville because I wanted, I loved horses, I love animals, and that's where you do it, right? And so I love DeKalb County. I'm at the southern tip, yep. And so I've got all my animal babies on the farm. So yeah, I'm very much.
Love it. I love it. She's not just an attorney. She's not just a social justice warrior. She's not just brilliant. She's a farmer too. Heidi, could this get any more perfect for who we are on our show? Honestly, Heidi's a farmer. She has a horse farm. She has a horse ranch. She trains. Could not get more perfect.
Yeah, so I decided to run, I've never ran for elected office before.
So you're a first time candidate.
Yes.
So that's
Before
wonderful.
you go on, what's your website, Anna?
It is annawilhelmi.net or annaforstatesattorney.com.
Okay.
So you can find me there. Either direction, all go to the same website. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Make sure we get it in there a couple times because sometimes people are driving or something. So very good. Okay, so why did you decide to run? And you can find out more about you at Anna Wilhelmi.net.
Yeah.
Yep.
There we go.
Yes,
Great.
thank you.
We'll post that link up too on our social media
Absolutely.
and when we launch the podcast. So we'll make sure that all that information gets out so that you can find Anna and send her your questions or send her your support and know how to vote for her coming up November 3rd. So Anna, why did you decide to run this time?
Yes. So I decided to run. I was asked, and at first I was like, yeah, no. It's kind of like it was very different and scary actually. Like,
Yes.
why? I've never thought about it. I've never thought about running for state's attorney, and I thought about it, and I was like, well, gosh, I'm qualified.
Right.
I've got a really strong criminal justice background. I have handled all of the things that state's attorney do, except prosecute, right? So I've actually been a plaintiff in civil suits, but I have not prosecuted. However, I've done everything as a criminal defense attorney that you would do. So orders of protection, domestic violence, aggravated batteries, home invasions, DUIs, all of it, right?
Okay.
Sexual assault. Okay. So I looked at the qualifications and I'm like, yeah, I can do this job. And then I'm looking at, well, we need some serious criminal justice reform. That's been on my mind for quite a while. So I looked at that and I was like, okay. And then Elijah Cummings, our congressman, he passed away.
Yes.
And his words, he said, what did we do in 2019 to keep our democracy intact? And it kind of shook me. What did I do? Right?
Yes.
So I decided to run for state's attorney.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the
Amazing.
ultimate what I needed
It's
to
like
do.
such a great story.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Elijah Cummings inspired you in 2019 to do something. What
That's
did you do to affect
amazing.
change, and you decided to run? I mean, that is very, very amazing.
So can you tell the people listening, Anna, all of us, the three of us know exactly what a state's attorney does, but a lot of people don't. They really aren't familiar with their local government and how the wheels keep turning within government. So if you can explain what the job entails, that would be very helpful to a lot of people listening right now.
Thank you so much. I will do that. So the state's attorney's office, they prosecute laws, right? So that's a part of their job, and have a wide discretion as to who they choose to charge in a particular matter. Okay, so the state's attorney, they handle child support, they handle orders of protection, they prosecute domestic violence cases. They sometimes, well, in DeKalb County, we have a certified pretrial diversion program that they run. They prosecute all of the violent offenses, up to murder, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a wide range of items, including representing the county if there's some kind of a civil matter that the county needs to be represented.
Okay.
So it's a wide range of items that the state's attorney does. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Anna, I have a question about that. When we were talking in our pre-show, you had mentioned, I said, what can you do to affect change? And as you were saying, you have the ability to understand cases that someone may. Could you explain? Could you? I've got a follow up to this one, but as you were explaining it to me, when you talk about you have a wide discretion, that sometimes people, particularly members of the Black, Indigenous, brown communities, all face higher incarceration rates. And some of that is not just due to profiling. It is due to profiling because they've been pulled over or stopped or contacted, as you said, and so that's in their file, even though they had no fault. So when it comes up, it could look like they need a harsher charge. Am I hitting somewhere in the head? I'm not an attorney, and I don't play one on TV.
Yes. So the criminal justice or criminal legal system is systemically based in racism. Okay. So if you look at racial profiling, like in DeKalb County, for example, Black people are stopped 3-1 compared to white people, right?
And DeKalb has a lot of students that come in from other parts of the country too, right? So they come in to go to school at NIU for all the different schools within the school at NIU. Some come to be teachers, some meteorologists, because you've got a famous meteorology school, law. They study so many different things, engineering. So you have people of all different walks of life, all different colors of skin that come to DeKalb County, to DeKalb, Illinois, to go to college, or are passing through your area, and you find that these people, and some are native to the area too. This is where they live, but you're finding that in your county, they're more likely to be 3 times more likely to be pulled over. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes. According to the data out of the Illinois Department of Transportation, where they are collecting data on stops and searches. Okay.
Okay.
So you can look up this data up until 2019. I was actually there was an evaluation of data from 2017. So that's the data that I was looking at because it was evaluated in a form that I could understand. So because it is complex, right? So you can go on the IDOT website and actually see the data.
Wow.
Okay, and they break it down by police department in Illinois, and that and it only goes to stops and searches and consent searches and dog sniffs, right? So it leaves a lot off, but it also gathers a lot of good information that we can just go, well, let's just look at the numbers, right?
Yeah.
So we've got innocent people being pulled over, right, for race, right, for color.
For driving while black.
Yes, that's the distinguishing factor.
Yeah.
Okay, so it leaves people with a sense that the police are not legitimate, right? But so you have that. Then you have the decision to arrest, right? So police can they use their discretion as to whether or not they're going to send you home, or whether they're going to arrest you. Okay, so stats show, and this is not in that database, but you can look up studies that people of color, black people, indigenous, other people of color, are arrested more often than their counterparts, white people, right?
Yeah.
So it's a series, and then it goes on to convictions and so on. So in the prosecutor's office, right, I have a wide discretion to take a look at data and to take a look at what's happening here as far as, if I look at, the data where you have people of color being stopped 3 times more than white people, then I want to go, well, what can I do with my discretion in order to change that, right? What can we do? So, when you do have those stops, okay, there's contact sheets, all right? So like if a person, a 17-year-old has contacts with the police, let's say he's very dark skinned, because studies do show that if you're the darker the skin, the more likely you are to be stopped by the police. Okay, that's a fact.
Yeah.
So the darker the skin, let's say this dark 17-year-old student, right, gets pulled over multiple times through his 18-year-old and 19-year-old. Okay, so the state's attorney's office is going to be able to have that contact sheet, right? So the state's attorney, based on their own discretion, can go, well, this person has been pulled over 7 times, right? And they got a break every time. Therefore, I'm not giving this person a break this time, right? Or I'm going to really charge this person with something that, maybe I would have used my discretion to do something else.
Right.
Okay. Based on those contacts. Okay. So right away, this person of color, right, is being treated, the impact of what would be just laws he's being treated differently, right? Because of the contacts, because of race, right? Yeah. So I have the ability to take a look at that and evaluate it closely as to what really happens here. And, is this person being stopped because of their color of their skin? Why should that be a factor in whether or not I decide to charge someone, right?
Right.
I mean, it's not the right thing to do.
Well,
and Anna, I have a question for you. I'm not really as familiar with the realm of law as I am other realms. I know that there are different sort of personalities for each different profession of law. And having been a defense attorney, your entire career, do you think you bring a more, what does that bring to a chief prosecutor's office? To me, it seems like it would bring an understanding of how it impacts the community, where a prosecutor may not, who's been in that of their whole field, may not feel that way. They're sort of institutionalized in the criminal system that needs reform. So am I wrong, or is that something that I think you would be amazing doing?
Thank you. So as a defense attorney, and not only as a defense attorney, but as a sociologist, like my background is in sociology and criminology,
Right.
I went into law school with a different perspective. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was looking at studying groups as I went in. Okay. And even though law school, everybody gets pretty much the same classes and all of that, I went into the field with a different sort of background. Okay.
Yeah.
Criminal background. So then, as far as being a defense attorney, I am, as a defense attorney, constantly defending the United States Constitution, Fourth Amendment specifically, right?
Yeah.
So as a defense attorney, I'm kind of at the border of, is this an illegal stop, right?
Yeah.
Because that protects you, it protects other people from the police being able to do whatever they want, right? So stop someone and let it come out in the wash, rather than honoring the Fourth Amendment right to privacy, right?
Right.
And I realized that our Fourth Amendment, it used to be that people could only be stopped for probable cause, right? And since 1968, which is Terry v. Ohio, right? That then the police could have this reasonable, articulable suspicion to stop somebody.
Right.
And that has become, the Christmas tree scent in the mirror, right? The rosary hanging, right? The tail light out, the license plate out, the license plate light.
Yeah.
I am telling you, I don't know how many police reports that I had that the basis for the stop was a light in the license plate.
I had a young man, no, he's a grown man now, pull me over in my son's car because he said there was a piece of tape on the license plate. And he was...
And that's legal, by the way.
That is legal, a piece of tape. But it turns out that they were rivals in high school over the same girl. And he thought he was pulling over my son, and he got me.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, well.
So that's the misuse of power, right?
Very much so. Very much so.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we have to pay attention to the use of power where police discretion is involved, right? I mean, that's a really good example. So, when we've got people being pulled over for a license plate light, it's used as a pretext. In the law, is allowing that. So as long as you have, race plus something. So race plus a license plate light, race plus, a piece of tape on the, I'm not saying that's illegal. You know what I mean? Or, the tail light, or the obstructed view, or the tint is too dark. Then the courts are saying, well, that's okay.
Right.
And really it's not, because it's being used as a pretext, right? To pull people over. And then that leaves people with this sense of not trusting the police. Right?
Anna, my daughter got one speeding ticket, and it was an egregious one when she was first learning to commute. And we were the only white people. I went to court with her. We were the only white people in a Grundy County court. I see this thread of what you're dealing with, what you're talking about in other counties. I was stunned because I know the racial makeup of Grundy County. I could not believe all the black and brown people that were in there, pulled over for a piece of tape on the license plate, something, the Christmas tree hanging in the rearview mirror, or the license plate light out, that evolved into something else because they were looking for something else. It wasn't really why they were pulled over. And it was rather stunning. I was really taken aback by it. And so we got to see the systemic racism that's local to where we live, one county over from where we live, right before my eyes. And the fact that their state's attorney didn't step up and say, well, I know the state's attorney, and I know he wouldn't have stepped up to say anything, but yeah, well, we've done a whole show about BLM.
We're not going to put our wonderful, amazing future DeKalb County States Attorney in an awkward position,
right?
But we could all tell stories about states attorneys
that
we
don't
have in our counties. But
right.
that is not today.
So, but
today
what I was saying is, you would see a pattern like that and then address it. Is that where you were headed? Because I would say that was a pretty obvious pattern that needed to be addressed. So, so that was my concern. And when you talk about criminal justice reform, so are there specific things that you want to change in the office then when you take office?
Yes. So I really want that there not be cash bail, right?
Okay.
Of course, we'd have to have the judge on board, but usually, the state's attorney is the one who says, well, they're going to recommend, whether or not to post bail. So a lot of times what happens is people are incarcerated because they cannot afford to get out. Okay.
Right.
And people who are not incarcerated, like for violent crimes, potentially, right. Are able to get out, right, for a higher bond. So how does that keep people safe? I mean, it's discriminatory on its face. So it needs to be addressed, and I'm hoping that the legislature will do something with that as well. But I'm wanting to do my part.
Okay.
Also,
that's a great plan.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
I really love that. Yeah. So are there other things that you would like to bring to the office?
Yes, there is. So I really want to look at mass incarceration, right? And it might sound like, oh, well, how would I affect this, right? So mass incarceration is really, in the United States, we have the most
yes, we do.
people incarcerated than anyone in the entire world.
Right.
Okay. And it's systemically racist because there's at least 7 people of color to 1 person who is white that is incarcerated in this country.
Yep.
Okay. So I look at this mass incarceration as an extension, and I'm going to say extension from slavery. I mean, we are still in our history, right?
Yes.
Slavery to Jim Crow to the new Jim Crow, which is mass incarceration.
Okay.
So now we have to do something with this thing we created with the war on drugs and the law and order and the racial profiling and the stops and frisks where they just swept people because there were blacks standing on the street, right? So we have to address this, okay? So we have to look at who are we incarcerating and why. Now, I'm going to just say this right off the top is that if there's violent offenses here, this is not what I'm talking about. That's a whole other animal, okay? I'm talking about this war on drugs, about these people who are actually convicted and they're giving these long sentences compared to others who are a different color, right? Mm-hmm. So these folks have to come out eventually, okay?
Right.
And they're going to come back out into our community, right? So what would we like to do? Are we going to spend tens of thousands of dollars per year, right? Like a lot of money, taxpayer dollars, to keep these folks confined,
right,
incarcerated. And then when they come out, there's no job, their family is destroyed, plus the family that's been out all this time, right? Without a parent, right? So then you've got, and then you go on to they're labeled as a felon. So good luck getting a job.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
And then there's no support. So we've got this situation where we have created an environment to fail for people.
Oh, 100%. 100%, Anna.
What's amazing and what I want our listeners to remember is here is someone who has the ability to make change at that level. That is why our local elections are so important. The president and your legislators get a lot of attention, but to me, your judges, your state's attorneys, your county members, those are the ones that have a lot of impact in your life in making your situation better. Like you had mentioned, Anna, you hope that the legislature gets on board with ending cash bail, but it's something that you have the discretion to be able to work toward changing in your role.
Mm-hmm.
right? Okay.
Yes.
So I just want to tell everybody that, when you go to that ballot box, you need to know who you're voting for. You need to make sure that you know what they stand for. And far too often we look at the sound bites and the clips and the fancy mailers that come, and having an opportunity to get to know someone like Anna is so incredibly important. And that's why we brought her to you, so that you can understand why you need to vote for her. If you're not in an area but you think she's amazing, I highly recommend contacting her campaign. Could send postcards, you could make phone calls, you could even donate.
Donations are
Am I
good.
right? Donations are very good.
Marie and I always talk about how much we learned about the campaign finances when we were running, and how important that is. And $5 makes a big difference. It's a lot of postcard stamps, right? So don't be afraid if you just have a little. If you believe in Anna as far as being your DeKalb States Attorney, make some phone calls for her, send some text for her, mail some postcards, send her a little bit of money. Everything helps. And mostly tell your friends to vote for her, because people need to understand. Share this podcast with them so that they understand what a passionate, compassionate person she is. And that sometimes in law,
I'd like to say,
we need...
What I find most compelling about Anna, about you, I'm sorry, I'm like, we're pretending she's not here, is the fact that her background is not only in law, it's also in sociology.
That's exactly what I was going to get to.
She comes from it as an understanding of how our society, not psychology, how we function and work and how we interact.
Yep.
And to have that kind of a background coming into the criminal justice system, particularly at this time where, like you brought up, the Black and brown communities are systemically disenfranchised due to this system, and we have an opportunity here. DeKalb County, you can really make a change.
Right.
This is an amazing opportunity for what Anna will be able to do. So just wanted to, sorry, I kind of went off track, but I need people to understand the importance of voting for you, of understanding what change you can affect. I need people to know that. So.
Right. Understanding the human condition can make things better for all of us. And when one of us is affected negatively or unfairly, it affects all of us. It affects our entire community. So I love that you're speaking up and out about those issues. So
we're almost going to wrap up, but Anna, I have one last thing to ask. We've been friends on Facebook, and so the protest. There've been protests, which we all know, riots, looters. We're all crazy in Sutton's Empire. I haven't seen one yet, and I've been to a lot of them. But you were up in DeKalb. You had protests in DeKalb, and folks were unjustly incarcerated, and they were. And what you did? Okay, so if you doubt what I say, listen to it straight from Anna's mouth. How amazing she is. Heidi and I just thought you were the greatest thing when you were supposed to be on our show, but you were defending folks pro bono because they were. Could you just tell us about it? It was so amazing.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's actually, okay, I want to start with, yes, absolutely, Black Lives Matter. Okay, I'm very much for, we've got to have this change. It's urgent, right?
It is.
The police brutality is just, it's insane how Black people are handled, just without value, right? So what was happening when we first set this up was actually a Rockford protest.
Oh, that's right. It wasn't DeKalb. It was Rockford. You're right.
It was the Rockford youth. Yes, it was the Rockford youth. And someone had asked if I could assist, with what was going on, because I'll tell you, Rockford is not handling protesters, very well. And I'm really worried about the youth in Rockford, the Black youth. And what the police are doing, and the state's attorney's office, frankly, that they are trying to clamp down and charge mob actions and aggravated batteries and all of those things against people who just want justice, right?
Right.
They just want fairness.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't want to die at the hands of the police.
Right.
Right. They just want to be able to trust the police, frankly, trust them to do the right thing. And they cannot, right?
Yeah.
So, So that was what was happening, and I was kind of like a little bit involved, and I still am, as far as helping someone with a case right out there in Rockford, a protester. But yeah, so it was kind of horrifying at the time, the way that the Rockford police handled, and it was multiple departments that showed up at the Rockford District 1.
Wow.
So there were injured people there, and they could have been handled so much differently, especially when there was just like property damage, right? I mean, and it seems like the police are the ones that are initiating all this violence, and you could see by the videos from the May 30th event.
Oh yeah.
And then again,
We saw
on the July 31st, I think it was the 31st here, again, right, charging people with felonies, like
Right.
30 people or whatever with felonies and mob actions. That's shameful.
It is.
What are you doing?
We
You
saw.
know?
Hey,
We saw.
we just have a mayor who jumps people while he's pretending to be a cop,
And that's in,
You know-
in Joliet. Yeah.
and that's in Joliet. That's who we have. He pretends he's a cop, he's LARPing, and he beats the hell out of protesters, and those protesters go to jail and sit in jail for 3 weeks while mayor who did the assaults case is being investigated.
The thing, Anna, that I think that you've brought forward in my mind is that each of us needs to step up and do what we can do. That's why I ran for office. That's why Murray ran for office. That's why you're running for office, because we see these needs and we know that we can address them. And I love that you have a systematic approach and a thoughtful approach to all the things that need to be done right now. And I love the framing of the argument to become the DeKalb County States Attorney. Thank you. Thank you for
So will
being
you
that
come
voice.
back and visit us again, Miss Anna?
I would love to.
Yeah.
It's been
Oh,
such a
that'd be
pleasure.
wonderful.
So much. I really appreciate it.
We want to check.
We'll have you on any time, and
Yeah.
we would like to talk sometime once you get past the campaign and you are the state's attorney.
Oh yes.
We'd like to talk a little bit more about criminal justice reform and things we need to do from a legislative level that
Right.
you see the court level. So we definitely want to have you back on. This is the amazing, brilliant Anna Wilhelmi. She's the next state's attorney for DeKalb County.
In
And if you're
Illinois.
not calling, writing, voting, and giving this beautiful, amazing, fantastic woman money, you're silly. Please do. You can do it at annawilhelmi.net. We'll post all the links, all the details. And Anna, thank you so much for coming on.
And thank you both. It was just my pleasure, and thank you to your wonderful audience.
Well, thanks again for tuning in. Remember, you can catch this and all our previous episodes at Heartland Mamas, MAMAS.com, on the Demcast network, and everywhere you get your podcast. And if you want to see our faces, find us later
More
today
funny.
on YouTube. You can see what Heidi's slurping down today. So, all right, take care now, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.
Everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.